All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today, we've got a special guest with us. We've got Sue Ward. We're going to be talking about supplementation, and John will actually give you her bio, but my name's Fatima.
And I'm John. And so, yes, I'm honored to introduce Sue on the show today. So Sue Ward, she's got a master's in science, and she's also a board certified nutrition specialist. Sue's the director of nutrition and education at Sonovive Medical Institute, where she manages the nutrition, the kitchen, the garden. They have a garden on site, fitness and guest education departments. And she helps with special projects and assists with research, and appeared on the Dr. Oz show. She holds a bachelor's degree in exercise science from Southern Connecticut State University, a master's degree in human nutrition from the University of Bridgeport, and is trained by the Institute for Functional Medicine, IFM. She has a personal website, sueward.com or sue-ward.com. And she has online courses and a blog for anyone interested in nutrition, fitness, and natural health. She's passionate about this, educating people, and her favorite topic is liver health. And she believes a healthy liver is essential for optimum health. She has over 20 years of experience in corporate fitness, 12 years in experience in clinical nutrition, and has studied all forms of integrative medicine. And during her career as a fitness trainer, she spent 10 years training everyday people for half and full marathons. Woohoo! Using moderate run-walk approach as outlined in her book, Cruising for Fitness or Finish Lines, a run-walk program for everyday people. So let's welcome Sue Ward on. But before we do so, I just want to point out that if you are, all we're here is to do is provide some information. And if you are under any kind of medical supervision or under medication or have any health concerns, please consult with your physician and your specialist. And take this information and discuss it with them. So let's bring Sue on.
She should be coming on soon. There we go.
There we go.
Hi. All right. Excellent. Hello,
Hi, Sue.
Hello, Sue.
Oh, it's great to be here.
So you're all the way down you're down in Mexico. So
yeah, I'm in Rosarito Beach, Mexico. It's about 20 miles south of the California border, and it was 40 degrees this morning, so it does get a little chilly here.
Wow. So welcome. Thanks so much for tuning in. I know you're super busy, down at the Medical Institute. So I guess to start with, supplementation is something that people kind of either, there's a lot of wide range of beliefs in that. Why is that kind of important? Like, why is supplementation important?
Okay, so this is a common question that people ask a lot, hey, do we even need supplements? Can we get everything through a healthy diet? But I think the best way to answer this question is to give you a couple of examples. Okay, so I want to give you one example. First example is vitamin D. Vitamin D is so critical to our immune system, and we're supposed to get vitamin D from sunshine. That's the natural way to get it. That's the way our body produces it in our skin. There are some factors that impair that process. But nevertheless, we need vitamin D, and we need it at a certain level. So if we don't get that level, then a lot of health conditions can actually be, worsened. We increase our risk for cancers and things like that. So we're supposed to get it through sunshine, but right now, who's getting it through sunshine? And are you getting it through sunshine if you're up in Canada in the middle of winter? No. Okay, so why do we need this now and we didn't need it 50 years ago? Because 50 years ago, people were eating liver and onions once a week. People were eating organ meats. Those are really good sources of vitamin D. In fact, those are good sources of other nutrients too. But nowadays, who's eating liver? I used to get 5 bites of liver once a week, and we were never deficient. we got sunshine, in the summertime, not in the wintertime, but we ate our liver once a week. Well, actually, once a week did it. But nowadays people aren't doing that, and there aren't very many good food sources of vitamin D. One good food source is wild caught salmon, where you can get about 1,000 international units in a 5-ounce piece of salmon. But if it's farmed salmon, guess what? You only get 300. So quality of food is a big, huge factor when we're talking about nutrients and can we get things from food. So yeah, maybe you can get some good vitamin D from salmon. You need to be eating it at least once or twice a week, but maybe not if you're not eating that, or you're eating farm salmon, you might not be getting it. So vitamin D is one very difficult to get in food. But yet I have a number here, and I thought this kind of blew my mind. I read a study, and your vitamin D level should be between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter. If you are in Canada or other countries, the unit of measure is different. Your vitamin D level needs to be between 100 and 150 nanomoles per liter. Okay, so get this, okay? If your vitamin D level is below 20, or in Canada below 50, guess what? You are 73% more likely to get a severe virus, like cold or flu virus type of illness. 73% more just by not having that sufficient vitamin D level. And sometimes people do get very seriously ill with colds and flus and similar viruses. The risk for death is 59% higher if your vitamin D level is low. If it's below that 20 in the US or below 50. And this was a study that was done within the past couple of years, like with a lot of people. So we have really good science showing us, what our needs are and how we have to know that. So for vitamin D, just because I work in a clinical setting and we measure vitamin D in everyone, I very rarely see people at a sufficient level, because right now we're in the middle of winter, and that's when we get our colds and flus, right? In the middle of winter. So vitamin D, that's a really good example. You're probably not going to get sufficient levels through food, although you may get sufficient levels in the summertime if you have some sun exposure. Okay, so any questions about that? Because that's a bit, for me, that's a big one. Vitamin D is just so important.
Well, I was thinking, like you mentioned fish, right? What if people are not eating meats, or if they're allergic to seafood? So, we're always talking about having a wide variety of foods and colors and different food groups. But if let's say you're a vegan, or let's say you're vegetarian, or let's say you're doing different keto things, you're basically not eating a certain selection of food. So how does this kind of impact the nutrients that you should be getting in those optimum levels? Like you're saying, if we're already lacking vitamin D and we need to eat fish, well, if you're not eating fish, then where are you getting it from? And if they're in even lower amounts, how do you kind of crank that up?
So with vitamin D, if you're not getting it from food, you have to get it through sunshine, or supplementation is the only way. But now in the case of vegetarians or vegans, they're missing a lot of nutrients, actually. And there are ways to replace them. So for example, most vegetarians and vegans do not get enough vitamin B12. So those are found only in animal products. So it's common for them to supplement with a B12. But here's the problem. If you take too much B12, you could now have too much of that, and you can have an imbalance of folate, because those two nutrients work together. So in nature, everything's balanced, but when we start taking supplements, things are not always balanced. So that's why I like, in supplements, I do like formulas, rather than taking just a B12, I would take a B complex, and things like if you're on certain medications, and nowadays a lot of people are on medications, medications can deplete nutrients in our body, particularly the B vitamins that have to do with energy and mood. Do you guys know anybody with energy and mood problems? Right nowadays, so we really have to look at our B vitamins, and those are very hard to get from food, and mainly because our world is so different today. This is why we're not getting everything from food. In fact, I was just reading a study where the food supply 20 years ago was totally different. So nowadays, as compared to 20 years ago, there's 6% less protein in fruits and vegetables. There's 38% less riboflavin, which is a B vitamin. There's less vitamin C. There's about 30% less folate, and that has to do with farming methods. So we have different farming methods. We don't rotate the soils. Then we have things like pesticides and weed killers that are depleting nutrients and causing imbalances. So the broccoli you ate 20 years ago does not have the same amount of calcium that it has today. And there's science on that. So we know that because of our modern world, because of air pollution and heavy metals and things like that, we're more depleted in nutrients. I want to give you another example that I think is really good. Another really critical nutrient is iodine. And I know you've had Dr. Teresa Peter on, and I know she's a big iodine proponent. Iodine is so very important. It not only ensures that our thyroid, works properly, but iodine is critical for the prevention of breast cancer and other cancers. Iodine is so very important. And, 20 to 50 years ago, it was present in our food. Okay. But now here's what happens. We have chlorine in our water. We have fluoride in our water, and we have bromine in pesticides. And those three chemicals deplete iodine out of the soil, so that when we grow the foods, it's no longer in the soil. We see a lot of iodine deficiency right now, and that is very hard to get from food. Unless you're eating seafood and sea vegetables, you're probably not getting enough. And it's a critical nutrient. So the big message is we're living in a different world. Even the bread that we ate 30 years ago is not the same bread we're eating today. So I grew up in the 60s, and yep, you got it, guys. I ate Wonder Bread. I ate white bread and, some processed food, but it's different now. Back then, we didn't have the heavy metals, the chemicals, the pesticides in our environment. So our bodies need more defense. And right now we're seeing an all-time rise in chronic autoimmune diseases. And, and everybody's been talking about having a strong immune system over the last few years. It's key. You have to be nourished, not just through supplements. You have to be nourished through your food as well. So they definitely, vitamins and nutrients in the supplement form can definitely support us. Another really good example is there's been a lot of discussion about omega-3s and fish oils and how those are so very important. They are. So if you're not eating wild-caught salmon twice a week or other cold water fish, you might not be getting enough omega-3s. So right here, vegans and vegetarians can get those through walnuts, through flax seeds, and through some other plant products. But guess what? Our body doesn't always convert those nutrients efficiently when it's from a plant product. So the omega-3s have a harder time converting, and some people don't absorb them well through plant products. And the same is true for iron. Iron from meat is beautifully absorbed, but iron from plants is not. So there's a difference. And so, we have to think about those things. So there are going to be times when a person is going to need, nutrient supplementation. And a lot of it's going to be based on their diet, based on their health, based on what medications they're taking, activity level. So there's a lot of different factors. One of the things I believe is the absolute most important thing is that I believe we need a good, solid multivitamin mineral formula. Almost everybody on the planet can benefit from that. There's plenty of research behind that. You really need that to support a variety of needs in a balanced way, in addition to, trying to improve diet. But even diet, you guys know, it's hard to change your diet, right? It's hard to change habits sometimes, we go through periods of, overeating, we go through holidays, whatever it is. Alcohol depletes a lot of nutrients. So I've actually been seeing more alcohol depleted, from the pandemic that's been going on globally for the past couple of years. There's studies showing people were drinking more alcohol, eating more sugar, eating more junk food. And now the big thing is fatty liver. And I'm passionate about the liver, and I've seen so much of it. But I've also seen it reversed with a combination of diet and good quality supplementation. So that's an example of where you may need a supplement only for a short period of time, maybe for 90 to 120 days, and then you get back, you get your liver health back,
So we've actually got some questions online.
Okay.
So one of the biggest questions that we've got is, what are we looking for when we're looking for supplementation, and how do we know it's a good quality supplementation?
Yeah, that would be probably the number one question, because as you know, you could walk into a health food store and there's like walls of products and brands, and how do we know? You guys, this is really, really important. It's so important to have a good quality product. Because I've actually seen what can happen in cases when you don't, and when people are taking a regular supplement. So my top would be, find a good quality multivitamin. And I think the most important thing is the company should be testing the raw materials. So when they make vitamin supplements, they're using all these, certified good raw materials, but people can falsify paperwork, and it's the supplement industry, so that can happen. When a company goes out of its way to test the product just to make sure that everything going in is good quality, that's important. And you will get that from certain companies. Sometimes they are practitioner brand company. Most of the time they're practitioner brand companies. There are a few network marketing companies I know that do test their products. That would be an important question to ask. You also want to, there's a little test you can do with a product. So let's say you have a multivitamin and you want to check it out to see if it breaks apart sufficiently. You could drop it in a glass of water, and that tablet should break apart and dissolve within about 30 to 40 minutes. If it doesn't, guess what? It might not be breaking down in your body either. And so absorption of the nutrients might be more challenging. So definitely look for a company that tests their raw materials, a company that might test to see how it dissolves. That's a possibility. And there's a company out there called consumerlab.com. They are an independent organization, and they actually test multiple brands. They test them for label claim, like if it says 500 milligrams of vitamin C, is that in the product? They test it for that. They test it for toxins and heavy metals. So that company finds a lot of lead in vitamins, and trust me, you don't want to find lead in your prenatal vitamin, do you? They also test it for dissolution, or how it dissolves. So those are at least a couple of things where people can get some guidance on, oh, okay, this is all right. And, they analyze cost and things like that, so that you can also say, am I getting my money's worth? Here's the big red flag. If something is really inexpensive, if it's super inexpensive, that's a red flag, for sure. And I get this question a lot, because sometimes people will get recommendations from their naturopath or their health practitioner, and they'll say, oh, I want you to take this brand of this product. And instead of buying it directly from the practitioner, they'll jump on eBay or Amazon and try to get it that way. But that's not a good idea, because some studies have shown that actual expired products have been relabeled and third-party sellers on those platforms. So that is not a good thing. You know, you need to ensure quality. Just keeping in mind that everybody wants to get in on the profits in the supplement industry. But for me, it's more about quality and what are you putting into your body? And you want to be certain that it's pure, it's clean. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You know what? I learned that, many years ago, is that, when you're putting stuff on your body and in your body, you want it to be the top notch. Like you want it to be the safest, especially when you're giving it to like my kids and my wife and my parents, because you're not just buying tires for your car. I mean, if they're not the best tires in the world, I mean, they're not going to be catastrophic. They'll be okay. But when you're putting stuff in your body that is meant to actually benefit you, you want to make sure that, like you're saying, you got to make sure you're going through all those checks. Right.
And so some people also ask the question, well, can I mix brands? Can I take, my multivitamin, this brand, and a vitamin C product, another brand? And that's okay if like I said, if the brand is tested. Sometimes people need only one nutrient and, their favorite brand doesn't have it, so they need to go to another brand. But again, you have to ask the questions. Does the company test the raw materials? Is this a professional company? Do they base their formulas on science? And that's really important. Where do the materials come from? Where do the raw materials come from? Where on the planet? Because hopefully they're not coming from an area that's super polluted, that kind of thing, especially when it comes to things like fish oils. Well, where are they getting their fish oils from? So very, very important. But again, I always stress that people really should start with a good quality multivitamin that has a lot of supplements, that a lot of support. So I get this question a lot. This is a common question, and I'm sure that you guys have probably got this question before. Let's say the multivitamin requires you to take 6 tablets a day. That's the multivitamin. But another person said, well, my multivitamin, I only have to take 1 tablet a day. Isn't that better? Or isn't that easier? Sure, it could be. But, nutrients occupy a physical space. So in order to get the levels of nutrients that you need daily, they might not all fit physically into one single tablet unless the tablet is super, super big, which nobody likes. So yes, in some brands, you're going to have to take, anywhere from 4 to potentially 8 tablets per day that make up your multivitamin. You could spread them out. Sometimes people can take a lower dose, and that's always a good idea, you guys, for when someone is just starting out and they haven't taken supplements before. Just start out with a low dose, just see how your body does with it, and just start somewhere. But don't wait until you get sick to just start down in a bunch of vitamins. Like, oh my gosh, I just got sick and now I need more vitamin C and I need more of this and I need more zinc. And because that's not the time to take them. You need to build your body up actually to prevent those things. That's the key. That makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, like to do prevention. But the other question is, so is it necessary for it to be tested, third-party tested, or even pharmaceutical grade? What is the difference between something that is just over the counter and a pharmaceutical grade?
Well, keeping in mind that any supplement company will have to spend money to do that. So pharmaceutical grade just simply means that the product was manufactured according to pharmaceutical standards, not simply GMPs or good manufacturing practices, because that's typical for supplements. But a company that produces a pharmaceutical grade product went above and beyond. Okay, so they went a little bit over because they wanted a pure, more high quality product. Most of the things you are going to get in a typical health food store are not going to be pharmaceutical grade. for the most part. You're going to probably just get GMP or good manufacturing practices from that. Some practitioner brands where you may get from your doctor's office or your naturopath's office, some of those are pharmaceutical grade because again, they're testing the quality of the raw materials and they're producing them with higher standards. So for example, in good manufacturing practices, you can have a certain, level of like dirt and bug pieces in something. In a pharmaceutical standard, you can't have that. So no, I don't really want bug pieces in any of my products.
So
I'm going to always go for the higher quality, even if I have to take less of a total supplement regimen, for budget purposes. I'm going to take a higher quality. I'm going to put that into my body because I know it's going to work better. That to me, that's really important. And just keeping in mind, again, with supplements, it's such a huge industry. Everybody wants to get in on the profit. So a lot of people are going to cut corners and not do that. So not all products are created equal. And honestly, I think just the way I rate foods on a scale of 1 to 10, you could rate a lot of supplements on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being low and 10 being high. And, maybe you don't want a 10, maybe you're okay with an 8 and that's good, so, but I'm sure most people don't want a 1. Why even bother waste your money, right? But what I have seen commonly in my clinical work at Sonovive is we see this a lot where people come in and, like I told you earlier, we measure their vitamin D level and it's low. It's like, and we're like, well, are you taking it? They're like, well, yes, I'm taking this product. Here's what I'm taking, and I'm taking it every single day. And then that's a clear indication that that product is not working. You're not absorbing it. And we need to consider how you're taking it. You need to take actually, you should be taking all your vitamins and minerals with food. They're part of food, and especially a vitamin D. Vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. You need to take it with food that contains a small amount of fat for effective absorption. So we sometimes we won't change the amount or anything. We'll just change the brand. And then we retest them in 3 months and it's working fine. So we know that, that person was taking a low quality product. It wasn't even working. It was just a waste of money. So I'm telling you, I see that a lot, a lot. So yeah, be sure you're taking all of your vitamin and mineral supplements with food, and, not even at the end of the meal, but in between the meal. Take a bite of food, swallow a pill, take a few other bites, maybe take another. Take it that way, because when those nutrients mix with food, there's the best chance for them to be effectively absorbed and tolerated. And then people don't get an upset stomach. Taking B vitamins on an empty stomach can cause a lot of nausea. And let me tell you, when people take a supplement and they don't feel well or they have a reaction, they never want to take anything again. But that's probably because they're doing something incorrectly. Get with your practitioner, your doctor, your nutritionist, your health coach to, discuss, am I taking this the right way? And, am I doing it right? And you may have to work with a higher qualified nutrition professional if you're on medications or you have some serious health conditions. If you're dealing with cancer or autoimmune diseases, there's some things that, you want to be really cautious about. So that would be a good recommendation as well. Right.
Wow. That was something that I learned, is that to take it with food, because the food kind of buffers, right? Buffers. Because there's some things that you don't want to consume on an empty stomach. As well, like you said, when you eat, vitamins are just food. It's really just food. Taking food with our food is going to be brought along that process.
Right. And that's a good point, John. And because you mentioned food, another important thing to remember is vitamin supplements are not a replacement for food. They're a complement to hopefully a healthy diet. And so you need both. You can't just say, wow, I have this illness or I have this condition and I think this vitamin is good for us, so I'm just going to take that. When you combine supplementation with diet, it's extremely powerful, and you can get some very powerful beneficial results.
We haven't even talked about the other things. I mean, there's lifestyle choices, exercise, sleep, drink. Fatima is always a proponent for drinking water, but when I talk to people, it's always what makes up the piece of the pie,
Right.
and so there's many pieces that make up the pie, and supplementation is just that is a sliver of that pie, right? And so it's not the be all and end all. You can't just be not doing anything and just taking supplements, even if you're eating well. There's other things with it, and being an athlete as well, Sue, is there's other major factors that with your health practitioner, depending on where you're at in your situation, they can work with you to kind of create, like, it could be trial and error too, but they're basically creating that piece of the pie for you to know what percentage of this and this that you need.
Right, right. Another popular supplement question comes up with probiotics. And probiotics that do come in supplement form and are really important. They're just beneficial bacteria that are supposed to be part of food, specifically fermented foods. But beneficial bacteria populate our intestinal tract, and we need those. They are critically important for our immune system. So again, historically, we used to eat a lot of fermented foods. People were eating sauerkraut, pickles, yogurt. They were fermenting vegetables, sourdough bread, things like that. And it was very common, but because of all the crazy diets, everything's different now. They cut out a lot of foods, and that's the first thing a diet does, is it cuts out something that's beneficial, and it shouldn't. But if we're not getting good probiotic bacteria either through our diet or supplementation, that can actually weaken our immune system as well, and it can impair our body's ability to absorb nutrients. Those beneficial bacteria actually make some nutrients that some people are unaware of. It makes biotin, they make vitamin K2, and so some things are synthesized in our gut if we have the right materials going in. Mm-hmm. So I think probiotics are pretty important, and I always have probiotics at home, because if you ever have to take a course of antibiotics, which are sometimes necessary, you guys, for an infection or whatever, it's really important that you're either eating good quality fermented foods or you're taking a probiotic supplement, or you can really do a lot of damage to your intestinal tract. So that would be a key thing to remember with probiotics. So can I just say some of the key supplements that I think are like definitely needed?
Go ahead.
Because I literally have had people walk into my office with a bag of supplements and they spread them out, and I'm like, wow, okay. So here's what you definitely need. I think a very good quality multivitamin mineral is critical. I think there are many good brands out there, and they should have good levels of most of the nutrients in balance. Most people, if they had that, would be already improving their health. I think you may need vitamin D, as I said earlier, but what you should do before you take vitamin D is get your level measured. And, if you're low, I think you should measure your vitamin D level in the winter and then again in the summer and see the differences, because some people may need the supplementation in the winter, but maybe not so much in the summer. Mm-hmm. Vitamin D is a critical one. Another one that we're seeing a lot of low nutrition status is with magnesium. Magnesium is really important. It helps us relax. It keeps our blood pressure low. Magnesium maintains bowel regularity. It helps us sleep. And stress can deplete magnesium. Certain medications deplete magnesium. So I really like to make sure we're taking, I always have magnesium. I'm just trying to think, you guys, are the ones that I will always have here that I never run out of. I always have vitamin C. I have it both in a capsule form and I have it in a powder form. And the capsule form, vitamin C is better absorbed in smaller doses over the day. If you take vitamin C in a large dose, you may get loose stools or even diarrhea. That might be okay for someone who's constipated, right? So that there can be a benefit there. But I always have vitamin C on hand because I feel that as we go through cold and flu season, a little extra support. There's a lot of science showing that that's beneficial. That's a good one to have. And I always have probiotics. That's another one that's, always in my house. Never have to think twice about it. Oh, by the way, you guys, I travel with these things too. I don't go anywhere without them. And I always travel with the digestive enzyme, because when you're traveling, or if you're, somewhere else, you don't know where the food's coming from. You might need a little support to support your digestion and make sure everything's breaking down.
Right.
Actually, aside from that, those are the big keys that I think like we all really need to think about. We may need to think about iodine, but beyond that, you have to look at your diet. And am I eating this? If I'm not eating this, maybe I should take, if I'm not eating fish, should I take a fish oil, if I'm not getting this, maybe I should take this or something. So that would be the key. And there are supplements that, like I just mentioned, that I feel are important for every day. And there's some that might be short-term, that might be for just the winter, or they might be just for 30 days while you're trying to correct a condition, or you're working with your doctor or something. Yeah. So, but what you definitely don't need is, you don't need a cabinet full of, 100 bottles, and then you're just completely overwhelmed and you're not sure what you're taking. You also need to be very careful with herbal medications or herbal supplements, because a lot of companies that have herbal supplements don't really do thorough testing, and there's a lot of heavy metals in herbal products. So you need to be really careful with that.
Or like GMO and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So that's
all right. Okay, so sorry, it's that time.
Hey, I know it's hard for me to be quiet.
It's that time. But yeah, I think John, I think you probably agree. We probably need to bring Sue back for
We need to have a part 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, and it's good that you mentioned seasonal. This could be a good segue into, like right now you're down in Mexico, so you're getting a lot more sunshine and basically more sunny days than we do up here, but that changes, right? And also when you touched on vitamin D, to be out in the sun for that amount of time to get the required amount, you also risk being out too much in the sun. So,
Right.
Sometimes, some people are sun sensitive and things like that. So they have to get their nutrients from something else. And then we didn't even touch on, pregnant women or women that are expecting, that's a totally different issue, and diseases and so forth. But yeah, definitely. But Fatima, part 2, right? 3.
Yeah, part 2 and 3 and 4, I think. Yeah. So Sue, we've got you booked in for a few days now.
Well, anytime you want to come back, Sue, I'm sure.
Oh, anytime. I love that. I'm passionate about education. That's why I created online courses. I'm super passionate about teaching people. And when I learn something new, I just have to share it,
So how do people reach out to you? I mean, there's probably people that's going to view this over. Hey, Courage, thanks for joining in on my feed here. But how do people reach out to you in terms of finding? Did you do personalized support and programs and coaching and so forth? How do they? I mean, Fatima, we'll put her contact information at the end of the show. But if they want to reach out to you and kind of
just go to my website. It's sue-ward.com. You could click on programs. I do have some online courses that you can take, and sometimes you can take them actually anytime, but there are certain times of the year where I'm doing live Zooms weekly to kind of provide more guidance. Within some of those courses, you get some private sessions with me and things like that. The next course I'm launching is Liver 911, which is all about why it's critical that we have a healthy liver. That'll be in April. You can kind of read about that. And I also have a blog and I have recipes there. So what you can do is sign up for my email list, because I provide a free 5-day food shift plan that you're going to love. And it's a great way to get back on track if you've been a little off track. It's designed to help you feel energetic, not gassy, not bloated, and just to get you back on track to healthy eating again. So you can get that just by signing up on my list.
It's perfect timing. Perfect timing. We're heading into sunnier weather and the summer, and people look good, feel good, and make some changes, right?
Definitely. This is a time of year people are thinking about that. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Sue. It was a pleasure having you, and we definitely will be booking you for session 2 and 3 and 4. So upcoming, we've got on March 4th, we've got Dr. Faring. She's going to be talking about skin health. Then on Wednesday, the 16th, we've got Dr. Teresa. She's talking about autoimmune disorders. And we're also now at day 54, 55.
54, I think.
Yeah, day 54 of Gratitude 1000. Definitely has changed a lot of people's lives, because people at one point thought that they couldn't come up with 1,000 different gratitudes, but today we've got 540 different gratitudes. So if you would like to join us with that, please do. It's not too late to start. So basically it's 10 gratitudes, 10 different gratitudes every day for 100 days.
Great.
And just make sure you tag the Healthy Way Vibes and Gratitude 1000, and we'd love to see you. And again, thank you so much for tuning in, and on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever else we're going live. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.